I figured good morning, everybody. I know I wrote that long thing. I wrote it early this morning when I was gonna post this as a live video. I couldn't sleep. I didn't sleep the day before at all. I had a really good day, as you saw the other day. That was followed by a really terrible day yesterday. Oh, I gotta lose track of the days. But I wish I'd come on earlier because I was more full of energy and positive, and I had a lot I wanted to talk about. But yeah, some things come up in the last little while that really have me, I don't know, just really have me pessimistic. Not about my life. I think the positive things from the last couple months have reconnected me with me. Somebody I had sent away. You know. Biggest mistake I ever made was getting involved in politics. Not my study of it. You know, years ago I wrote the definition of politics. Politics is the art of living together as a society. It's the art of coming to understand and recognize the concept of the common good and striving to approach it and grow ever nearer toward it over time. Mankind is a progressive being in a sense that it's unique in that we can change the world around us in a way that other living organisms can't. We're going to change it intentionally. So we can change it using our minds and our reason. We can change it to bring about good. But people can also use it to bring about bad. My definition of politics, very inspired by Aristotle's Ethics and Politics. This was John Stuart Mill's work, and in particular, if you read carefully on liberty, you recognize that most people misread what's there. Unless you have liberals and libertarians fighting, libertarian conservatives over who is in the tradition of John Stuart Mill, and neither are. Neither. He was writing it third way on purpose. He didn't see the validity in the liberal conservative duopoly, divide, dichotomy. I mean, it was just coming into existence in his time and in his place in England in the mid-19th century. And party politics was just emerging, and people were trying to give it a legitimacy that it never had before. Because people understood from Aristotle on that parties have one purpose. I mean, it's by their design. It is their definition. It is to seek power to bring about the interests of a part of the whole, not of the whole, not of the common good. Parties will never get there. They're incapable of it. They're creatures designed and by their nature, they'll never get you there. But nobody wants to learn that. It's too hard. Everything's oriented around it. Everything's built around it. Yet it destroys people. It destroys the country. It destroys community. I mean, think about it. You're legitimizing, institutionalizing a civil war. I mean, literally, the people who first advocated the theory of party government, two-party politics, they openly said that. That was the goal. Because they thought naively by legitimizing the Civil War and institutionalizing it, putting it in government and making that politics, it never was. Making that politics, they thought would mean that there would be no Civil War in reality. I mean, in life, because it would be worked out in politics. I mean, it's the stupidest idea anybody could ever come up with. You're institutionalizing two sides, opposing one another, absolutely, and without compromise. I mean, bipartisan and compromise is bullshit. I had a lot to talk about, and I just realized that people, they don't want to get, it's too hard. It's just easier to join the system and claim you're on the right side. There is no right side. Not in that. By definition, by design. Oh God, I was working on putting all that writing back together. I just don't know if it's worth the effort anyway. I spent 30 years developing and studying it. I still spend spend my days studying it, trying to understand, trying to find ways to get out of this eternal cycle of, it's a fucking carousel. You're on a fucking carousel and merry-go-round. Merry-go-round with two-party politics. See, you're both in the merry-go-round, spinning around. You ain't changing shit by being one of those two entities on it. I don't know. I just don't know anymore. Maybe I should just turn a blind eye to it all. Find some way to find some sort of sense of happiness and just leave us all. Leave this sick society. Let it fester and die, because it's heading that way. And it's not going to be long. I used to think it was going to be a little bit longer away. But I know now, the last 6 years have shown me, I didn't say, Trump and all that. But I began saying, at least by the 90s, this was coming. I described it as, not in every particular, but I warned this was coming. And, to see it all come about, fall apart so fast, and see so many people getting caught up in it. Oh God, and tearing each other apart. Friends that don't talk to each other anymore. Friends that hate each other now. I mean, what kind of society is that? Shit. God. You just let this mold put everybody, including yourself, into a position that you'll never change anything. And you don't see it. Like I said, you get on the merry-go-round. Oh, it's a lot of action, a lot of movement. Both of you are on the merry-go-round, and you're both making it go around in a circle, and round and round and round. It never goes anywhere else. It never gets anywhere. It's never meant to. That's American politics. That's two-party politics by its nature. And that's why it was the one thing that the founders, the founding generation, the whole society across the world understood. Parties were bad. The objective of politics and government and trying to come up with a way to organize political life of society I just my train of thought, but I told you my definition of politics is the art of living together as a society. And again, I suggest reading Aristotle's Ethics and Politics. The two intertwined. And it's so important to understand, because that's actually the key insight that Aristotle had, is that ethics, the moral dimension, had been missing in politics. And you didn't find it by saying which form of government, in the sense of who rules. It's, who rules didn't make good government. The people rule is not democracy. That's not democracy. That's not sufficient to be democracy. That's only one dimension of it. The people have to rule in the interest of the common good, of the whole. Same thing with an aristocracy as opposed to an oligarchy. Bad words, etymologically, But the difference is that one seeks the interest of the few through government and politics, and the other, though they are a few, seek the interest of the whole. That's the whole concept, and that's where you had arguments that aristocracy is good, and natural aristocracies and things like that. The idea of a natural set of people who are wise and good and all. And the same thing with monarchy versus tyranny. Well, again, both words are not good words, because the language of the time didn't have words for it. What Aristotle was doing was he was describing not 3 forms of government, but 6. It was like a box with, 2 rows and 3 columns, not just 3. Who rules? One, the some, more than one, less than all, or all, many. Those are the 3 basics that prior to Aristotle everybody was debating as to which one is the better one. They were looking to history, a lot of which we lost. What Aristotle had, and most of what we know from it, a lot of it comes from Aristotle. What he recognizes is if you just keep trying to create a system based on who rule, especially because democracy was considered, that Aristotle was not anti-democratic. That's a misunderstanding. Certainly, you have a problem because the Athenian democracy at the time of Aristotle and Plato and Socrates was in decline. They were destroying themselves. They were a democracy. They really were a democracy for a good period of time. We never were. We've been destroying each other from the start. That's why we had a civil war. We had a civil war because we were a nation divided that wasn't able to talk to each other and to come to mutual understanding. That's why we had a civil war. That doesn't in any way denigrate, issues about slavery and all that. Those are different issues. Important ones to address and learn from. The fact that existed, slavery at the time, doesn't mean that everything at the time has to be considered, let's just throw it all out and don't learn from it. You even learn from mistakes and bad things. You can learn from that. You have to learn from that. Otherwise, you're never really going to learn. If you were a parent and every time your child tried to stand, you sat them back down because they were a toddler, You didn't want them to fall, because falling could hurt them. They never learned to walk. We've never learned to walk politically. And I don't know if we are ever going to be able to try. I think more and more, it's not going to be possible. It's too broken. It's just too diffused through every element of society, formal and informal. And it's too imbued in the minds of people, even though, to my amazement, I was out there 40 years ago talking about third-party candidates and independents, and I was one of the two people pretty much educating people about what's now known as preferential voting and immersion. And people are openly critical of the two-party system more than ever, and of the parties. They're openly critical, and they're right. But they don't understand why it's bad and what's wrong. They don't know what to put in its place. And so most of what they're doing is replicating what is already there. You're just changing the decor and changing the people present. That's it. The society's going to continue tearing itself apart until we get a hold on what to our constitutional system is a parasite. It's draining the life out of the American polity, the party system, the parties. I mean, they've infected the host, and they're exploiting every resource of the host as fast as they can. And what's left is a carcass eventually. And they move on. And they just infect the next, and the next, and the next. And that's all I see. And I just don't see anybody thinking new. It's encouraging in one sense. Oh, you hear people talking about socialism and communism, but the whole idea of capitalism versus communism or socialism, that's part of the problem. It's when it's that dichotomy, it really isn't saying much. It really isn't doing much, and it's not learning from the past. We need a completely different mindset, a new starting point to build from the ground up. And unless we get that, we're gonna self-destruct. We're gonna destroy ourselves, and history demonstrates that. We're not the first. It won't be the last. It's unfortunate we didn't, take that experiment of the founding. The idea of creating, what was profound about the founding of America was it was the first time anybody had ever created a form of government using reason. And it was created as a means to an end. It wasn't just created because we need government. It was the end that was so important. And if you look at political philosophy from Aristotle through Madison and just up to about the 20th century. I mean, you see that the emphasis was on the end of government, and that end being the common good, as opposed to and distinguished from the particular interests of parts of society, which are represented by parties. In ancient Greece, in Athens, what we call politics was understood as stasis. And stasis in ancient Greek meant civil war. And it was that stasis that everybody up until and around Aristotle was worried about and concerned about. And it's why there was so much talk about, let's think this from the ground up. How do you build politics and society? How do you create a government that's going to serve the people when you're vesting an awful lot of power in what potentially is the control and hands of a few? And what we should know is, when you open up that door, if you haven't taken sufficient precautions to prevent it, it's only a matter of time. Your government is going to be taken over by a small set of interests. Ours has, long time ago. And this facade, this farce of a party battle, partisan warfare, that's just people hating each other. That's not politics. It's not going to get us anywhere. And yeah, the Democrats are just as much about hating the Republicans and just hate as they view the Republicans as a whole. And not every Republican is like that. Some are. Let me introduce you to some Democrats I know. These are some of the lowest scum of the earth. I wouldn't sit in a room with them. I'd spit on them if I was confining it. These people don't belong. Everybody, you can punch a Nazi. That whole thing that went on. What a bunch of bullshit. You're no, I'm going to punch a Nazi. You're a coward just as much as they are. You're not learning anything. Hi, Julie. Hi, Navarro. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I had a terrible day yesterday. And I fucked up so bad. I couldn't believe it. I can't control my fingers. And I knock things over, I drop things, and I go to push one button, I push the other, I wasn't thinking, I did the same thing just 2 days before. I paid my bills. The waste of paying your bills when you pay the one bills that you don't have to pay for a year. The 2 things I paid were all interest free. I just had to make small payments every month. I've been starting to think, and I've been starting to try and talk and get people in a conversation. And thinking maybe maybe that's something I should do and could do. I've been trying to reorganize my office. It's technically my bedroom. I've never really had a bedroom in this house. I never really lived in it, but it's a bed. And it used to be a bedroom. It used to be a guest bedroom. Took the other bed out of it. I moved my desk in here. I have the library next door. Even though I lost all my thousands and thousands and thousands of books back in the Alachua fiasco, I've amassed a pretty good sized number of books again. And they pretty much fill up a room and overflow the house. Don't ask how many electronic books I have. I'll show you some. This is one of my libraries of books that I'm trying to organize. There's one. In that library, there's 1,010 books. Yeah, they're mostly in there on a particular subject, and you can see. But I'm trying to organize about 100 of those libraries and put them together. And I'm trying to get in the mindset and in the habit and with the purpose of trying to, like I said, maybe I'll take these talks and create a podcast, and around that I can begin writing what I'm talking about, and but I don't think people really want to talk about those things. If I go and I say, character X is a jerk, oh my God, you can't be, he's right wing because, oh my God, he's platforming somebody else because you have someone talk to him, oh my God, I can't take it. I cannot take the so-called left. I'll sit in a room with, give me, don't give me Lincoln Project, but give me Tea Party nutcases. Shit. I can talk to them, and I can get them the reason. I sit in bars, talk to them all the time. I usually get them to admit they're wrong about something and then see it better, bigger and better. I don't have them put it in the language of the Democrats. I have them put it in their own language. That's how that is how you have politics. That is politics, sitting in a bar, talking to people on a one-to-one level in which you treat them with respect. Even though they disagree, and even though some of the disagreements may be really, touch on issues of morality and ethics and all that. And if someone is a conscious actor, that they go out and do immoral and corrupt acts, condemn them, target them, remove them, get them out of the process. But everybody else is just sort of in the pattern of, it's like a team sport. Your objective is to defeat the other guy. And that's all the Democrats are talking about. That's all the Democrats are trying to do. Actually, the National Democrats aren't trying to do any of that, really. What they care about is gaining the presidency. They don't care about any policy. Why do they care about gaining the presidency? Because Congress don't do shit for them. If they'd like to have a majority in Congress and the presidency, because then they have power. But they don't care about Congress. Congress doesn't do anything in this government. No, it doesn't. When does it debate? When did the House of Representatives ever have a debate in your lifetime? A debate. two people saying, hey, no, you're wrong, this is why. Oh, wait a second, let me look at that. No, you're wrong on this point. Well, where does that happen? Does it happen on the House floor? Does it happen in the committees? Like, oh, well, if it doesn't happen, it's because it happens in the committees. Have you ever seen a committee of Congress? A member goes and reads a bunch of shit that they've calculated that somebody wants them to be heard saying. And they couch that around a concept of questioning somebody. There's no, they're not questioning to obtain any new information that they don't have and that they sincerely want. No, the questioning is part of the game, either to win your side or to defeat the other side. Supreme Court justices nominations. Oh God, what a farce! I mean, forget Kavanaugh and forget what's her name? Oh God, the pubic hair on the Coke can, Anita Hill. I mean, oh God. I mean, there's no dignity in the Supreme Court. Not through that process. We haven't put a justice, someone who is knowledgeable and wise about justice and what it entails and why it's important. We haven't put anyone like that on the court in anybody's lifetime around that you know. Maybe one or two happen to get on the court historically at some point in time. But no, the American Supreme Court, if you look at it historically, is awful. Some of the people on there, I mean, they were not good actors. They were awful. Yeah. This Supreme Court is a joke. Oh my God, we need more of the liberals. Have you ever looked at the people that Bill Clinton and Obama put on the court? That is your champion? And you wonder why the Republicans are rolling all over you like a steamroller? The best you can do is go, we Democrats, vote Democrats, unity, unite. We're going to unite next time. We're united. We're all united. We're behind it. Oh, bullshit. I mean, come on. You think the average person can't smell bullshit from a bullshit artist? That's why Americans hate politics. Politicians talk down to everybody. They treat people like they're morons. The things that their campaigns, structure and, the way they write their speeches and their public comments. This all holds the people in contempt. I mean, this is all manipulating people. There's no communicating. There's no educating. There's no persuading. And there's no mutual striving to come to an understanding. And that's the whole reason to have politics and government, is to formally organize that. And that's not what our government does. That's not what politics does. And if you get involved in politics and part of the game, that's not what you're doing. You're just jumping through hoops that numerous circus horses have jumped through for decades before you. Circus horse, merry-go-round, like I said, carousel. You can get on. You're going to ride that beautiful white horse. You ain't going nowhere. It's moving. Look, it's moving. We're going. I mean, that's effectively what people are saying about politics. I mean, how can you say we're going nowhere? I can see movement. Look, we're moving. Obviously, we're going somewhere. Let's get there. We are going to get there. What are you going to get? All you're doing is perpetually moving around in the same idiotic circle. You know? It goes on and on and on and on. It never ends. You know, you want revolutionary politics, you end that vicious cycle. That's a revolution, Bernie Sanders. What happened to you? What a disappointment. What a disappointment. What a waste. You know, wasted opportunity. It's you know, you're never ever going to get there via a party. I don't care which party it is that you favor. I don't care if it's a new party that you want to create. You'll never get there with a party. All you do is just become another horse on the carousel or another person pushing the merry-go-round. That's all. And, God, it's so depressing and so disillusioning just to watch everybody being funneled one way or the other. I mean, there's a whole variety. Yeah. You know, whatever was just easily funneled right down that same path. And the only thing the last 5-6 years has given is incredible disappointment. If you think there's a movement, I don't know what you're looking at. I don't know where you're finding it. A thing can't move until that thing exists and is animated. There ain't a thing. There ain't a thing to move. I mean, again, unless you're satisfied with the movement of the carousel or the merry-go-round, because yeah, absolutely, there's movement, lots of movement. In fact, you can get on and you can actually increase the movement, or you can change the direction of the movement. You can do all those things. You ain't gonna make a revolution that way. You're not gonna make a change that way. You're not going to have democracy that way. You're not going to have good government. You're not going to cure the ills of society. You're not going to have Medicare for all, much less a real national health care. You know, Medicare for all, I mean, that ain't that enticing when you know how Medicare operates in terms of medicine. I mean, yeah, I mean, it'd be wonderful if everybody had it at this point. But Medicare is it's awful. It's not about medicine. We need a national healthcare system. We don't have national healthcare system. Just a simple idea. And every politician has known for a long time that the overwhelming number of the American public are for a national healthcare system. That means Republicans too. And yeah, it's in the hype of the battle of the parties, and all of a sudden everybody's opposed to it. But I mean, back when Hillary was supposedly the healthcare queen for Bill, and then when they realized, oh boy, politically this was a bad thing, it didn't help us. Of course, Bill Clinton's whole vision of healthcare, he was going to make healthcare his agenda. He was going to leave in 4 years or 8, and he was going to have established America to have the missing piece of the New Deal, because that's all he wanted. He wanted to be known as the next New Deal president, kind of thing. Ooh boy, famous. Bill Clinton. I mean, you don't get much worse than that as a president. Trump. Oh my God, Trump's so bad. He's 8 years of George Bush, and now his whole family's being, and now they got his daughters on, TV, like they have something to say that somehow reflects the ordinary person in America and their life experiences. Shit. And I mean, my father. He wasn't just an unethical man. He was just too stupid to know how unethical he was. His presidency was not his presidency. It was run by other people, and that's what they liked. That's why they loved him. And that's being embraced by the Democrats, all because of Trump. The biggest thing you have to fear is the result of, being so determined to destroy that evil entity that you wind up putting the same thing back in. Again, you just change the decor. It's like you change jerseys, same players, but new team. It's still the same team. Right? So changing jerseys ain't gonna do it. My God, I look at the average conservative pundit and Republican leading actor. They're terrible. They're awful. The sad thing is they actually make good points. I might not agree with the points. They actually make more good points than the Democrats ever do. Some of them might, if you look at the Republicans, there's a variety of them. I don't like where they're going. I don't like where they're headed. They're just as wrong as the Democrats. They have a completely misguided understanding of government and politics, and certainly of democracy. But for the past 6 years, I've never seen anything like what's happening from the left. Like, one thing after the other, censorship and, embracing the CIA and the FBI and, spying on citizens and, look at that. Look at this. It's crazy. It makes no sense. And I have a lot of insights into how it got that way and why it is that way and how you can change it, why you ought to change it, and what it ought to be in the sense of a vision that you strive towards. But nobody, those are not the conversations we have about politics. We talk about policy, and that convinces people. I'm pro-choice. This is an important policy. And it's just a tool that's been tossed out there and easily used to manipulate you. Both sides. It's perennially brought up because there's never going to be a solution. It's just used for fodder to make you hate the other side. It's not used to save fetuses. It's not used to defend the rights of women to have abortion. Not in politics. Not when it gets to the Democratic Party. If you think that, you're just naive. Look at, just take a look, okay, you're a Democrat. Look at Kristen Sinema. You hate her, right? But look closely at her. Wasn't she a Green candidate? How did she, yeah, she gets elected in Arizona and all that. At one point she got elected as a Green candidate and all that. Not what she's doing today. But what she's doing today is playing the game. She's climbing the ladder very, very effectively. And she's outplaying the whole Democratic Party. And she's a fool, she's a complete and utter fool. Which it should have been obvious when she did the little miniskirt. In the Senate. Not that I really care about decorum or anything. I didn't see it as an insult to the Senate. I thought it was an insult to her. It made her look like an idiot. But that idiot is running roughshod over the entire Democratic Party. And laughing about it. And, the game she's playing is easy to play. It's really easy. And it's no different than everybody else is playing. It's just, they're on a different team. She is on a different team. Yes, she's a Democrat. But she's just using the Democratic Party. Everybody thinks that the Democrats and Republicans, they represent two different, fundamental differences of worldview and visions and ethic, ethos and sets of principles and concern for certain policies. Maybe there are a few people in each party who still care about those things. Maybe within the party context, they babble on about it. They don't do anything about it. But the party isn't doing that. And if you think, if you can't break free of the fetters of parties, which have you doing things that you really ought to think twice about doing, and you ought to feel, kind of dirty. You talk about these people with respect. They're your kind of Mr. Wonderful. Mr. Wonderful. Everything you're saying about them was carefully crafted, more likely than not, to give the impression of Mr. Wonderful. There aren't a lot of people who have succeeded in politics and are sincere and just, saying the truth. Here's who I am. Here's what I've done. No. If they've gotten any distance that you've been able to see them and you notice them, believe me, they've already been, put through a number of funnels and, that funnel out all the any sincere voice or crazy idea or sincere idea. There are people with crazy ideas in the country. Shouldn't those crazy ideas be talked about in Congress? Why do we fear someone in Congress? Oh my God, someone in Congress is going to talk about that? No. We can't have that. Well, why not? Why don't you sit down and talk? You can demonstrate to them in the world that they're wrong if they're wrong. So why don't you do that? Rather than say, we can't talk about it. We can't have it. Oh my God. When she was 10, she had a tweet. What person comes up with that idea and puts that out into public? Well, I can tell you who, because it's not the person who you've seen say it, because they're just repeating what they've heard. Americans are wonderful parrots. But those words were carefully constructed by extremely high-paid teams of people whose goal is to find out how they can manipulate the American public and voter. Manipulate. Control. Not persuade, not educate, not inform, not get to know, not come to an understanding with, but to manipulate them so that they come to your side rather than the other, and they give you their vote, and it doesn't go to the other. You get them to vote, because otherwise the other is gonna come in and gonna do all these evil things and bad things. Well, shit, you know what? I guarantee you, if you make that argument, we've got to defeat the Republicans, because if they get in, they're going to do bad and evil things. It's a stupid argument, because if you think about it, it's guaranteed that the Republicans are going to be in government and in control for about half the time in your life, in everybody's lifetime. If you think the Democrats are the solution, how is it going to solve anything that they're going to be there half the time and these evil Republicans are going to be there half the time? Yeah? What are you going to do about that? Well, where are policies made? They're not made in Congress. They're not made from a discourse or discussion. They're made by interested actors who actually have hired people who become professionals at working for interested actors to pursue their interest and to get that interest advanced through government and politics. But vote for this person because we have to defeat that one. But I'm not going to look at all the bad things about this person and the fact that I'm putting that person in office. I'm sorry. That's never going to get us anywhere. And it only guarantees that this little thing that you're on is going to come to an end. It's not going to be a pretty end. Forget Trump and all that. That's such a joke. Trump's presence hardly made an impact. It was the reaction to Trump that's had the most impact over the past 6-7 years. It's not been a good impact. It's been frightening. It's been frighteningly Republican in overt tones. All hail the military-industrial complex, our heroes in the FBI and the CIA who are spying on us to protect us. Are there white supremacists out there? Yeah. Are most of the people being called white supremacists? No. Does it matter? No. The point is to call them that and label them that, and therefore they're bad, and you dismiss them, you don't listen to them, you don't hear what they're saying, you have no idea why Trump is getting elected, and therefore you're guaranteed to make the same mistakes again, and you're going to have Trump again, or worse. It's going to get worse. In the future, we went from George W. Bush. We went from George H.W. Bush. And that man had no business in the presidency. He was a world-class crook, criminal, bad actor. And his son was an absolute moron. And he was put into the presidency for 8 years. And Donald Trump is a buffoon. And he was in the presidency for 4. Maybe for another 4. The way things are going. Do you see a trend? You know? Oh my God, we had the first black president. Well, the guy didn't do shit in 8 years. Nothing changed. Because all he did was play the policy game, which is the merry-go-round game. To say, I want to be on the merry-go-round, but be the one that's being noticed. You know, be the one that's controlling the spin right now. Of course, I'm going to get tired, and eventually the other side is going to control the spin to keep it going. But right now, I want to control it, so I want to be seen controlling it. Paint me a picture of me doing things. Oh, he was for this policy, and he was the first black president. Wow. You know, shit. Didn't that change the life of black people everywhere? Not if you look on the streets these days. It didn't. Never was gonna. You know, Barack Obama was a politician with a capital P. It's like a lowercase p. Because I call politics with a capital P the politics that I talk about. You know, the art of living together as a society. To come to an understanding on how to approach, over time, the common good, which entails also a concept of justice. You know, the two are integrally related. You can't have one without the other. There are two perspectives on the same thing, in a sense, and that's not on the agenda ever. But no, when I went out there and inserted myself in the political realm, it was always on my agenda, and I always talked like that. Scared the shit out of people. Why? It scared the shit out of the Democrats in Washington County. Why? Seriously. Why? I mean, think about it. I probably talked too much and rambled on. I don't want to get any points I might have made that may have made someone think. And unless Julie, you or Navarro have any question or thought and you want to share, or you want me to talk about it, reflect on, I'll be happy to have a conversation. I know I've been just talking one way, but you know, I've been in a bad way for some time, and I really feel I made a profound break in the last couple months. You know, but I kind of wonder, do I really want to go back out into that world? I mean, I hid myself. I cut myself off. You know, as a protective mechanism. You know? Maybe that's the right thing to do. I don't want it to be. I don't like it, and I don't think it is. But my God, I mean, I just seen too much. I mean, people don't understand that. You know, I'm gonna look to state politics right now.
Here's something I found on the web. According to culturist.com, it's so important to stay politically engaged and active now more than ever.
That's really weird. Did I ask Alexa anything? I mean, she just chimed in on the conversation to tell me that being engaged in politics was a good thing. That was fucking frightening. I mean, seriously. Holy shit. Alexa just entered the conversation I was having with you. And put in a perspective that's being pushed by part of the political universe. It's a microcosm. It's more like a petri dish than anything. That gives a bad name to bacteria. I was once a microbiologist. I mean, I'm gonna have to go back, and I'm glad this video caught that. I mean, how can that be explained? I didn't ask Alexa anything. I didn't use the word Alexa, which is the wake word. You know, Alexa doesn't respond to anything that you say unless you say Alexa. I had a conversation with you, with myself, maybe. I don't know who's out there, if anybody. And I don't know if anybody's gotten this far into the video, if they're watching it later. But Alexa just entered my conversation with you to challenge my point. That is fucking frightening. That's fucking Big Brother. I mean, holy shit. Does anybody realize how fucking, it's just my language, but, I mean, nobody knows Amazon is doing that. Nobody's, this hasn't become a conversation or in the news or anything like that. And yeah, I mean, with the whole technology, which I love, I mean, I'm not afraid of my privacy because I never say anything that I wouldn't say in public. See, you can bring my words back up to me anytime you want. I don't care. I said them, yeah. I'll say them again. Maybe I'll say something different. Well, I'll never deny I said them. But, I mean, I have to go and I have to get that clip out because, I mean, seriously, I was just making an argument that was downplaying being active in politics, meaning politics in the lowercase p sense of, as political science defines it, who gets what, when, and how. That's not politics, that's power. That's not politics. Politics is coming together as a polity to strive toward both an understanding being ever more gained and enhanced about what the common good is and entails, and a striving to move forward as a society in that direction. And to do so in such a way that no individual is deemed, expendable. there's justice for each individual, but the aim is to seek the common good, which, ironically, all the Republicans fear, oh my, that's communism. But it's also, if you follow the writings of the people, the classic theorists that they believe that they've built their ideology on, that was the end that they were seeking too. That was understood as politics until the 20th century. It began to change in the 19th century. And, we are on the path to self-destruction. And I'm sitting here having a conversation with nobody, really, because nobody in the room, but some of you may be out there still, and some of you may come and watch and get this far in a video where I'm rambling on about stuff that probably people don't find interesting and don't really want to hear about. And Alexa, without being called upon, said, hey, look, Alexa was talking to you. My Alexa joined this conversation, uninvited, and put forward a point of view different than the one I was putting forward, which corresponds with what one side of the political spectrum is sort of trying to promote, because they're in power right now. So that's how you look at it from when you have the presidency. Again, I never finished. I said, why? What is it that each political party wants more than anything? They want the presidency. That's why Bill Clinton destroyed the Democratic Party, to get the presidency for himself. And then a whole bunch of people learned, shit, yeah, that's the game to play. After having controlled Congress for 40 years, unchallenged, the Democrats substituted Congress for the presidency to get Bill Clinton 2 terms in office. And ever since, have been focused on the presidency, because the presidency is where the power lies. Now, why does the power lie there? Because the perks and the plums sit in the hands of the executive branch. And the party then gets to distribute it. And if the president is in power, the Democratic, oh God, I don't know what word I want to use for them. I'm talking about the elected politicians. I'm talking about that whole culture and, of professional consultants and party hacks. They get a job in the government, or they get a better job, and then they get a better job. Congress doesn't have the ability to do that. The president does. That's why the president is deemed the most important. Yet in our system, as it was set up, the president was supposed to be unimportant, effectively, relatively, unnoticeable in day-to-day affairs. Certainly in politics, their job was to sit there and make the thing work, right? They were there to stoke the fire of the chain. I don't know. Again, I just rambling. No script, no anything. I need to come up with some, so that's the thing. Do I want to? I thought I needed to, come up with some scripts and some ideas to, put these points out there in a more organized way, more effective way. But, I don't know a lot of people that want don't want to talk about it. You know, they're, you know, just like when I used to say, you know, it's not about policy, it's about process. You know, why are you so fixated on turning elections into battles about policy? You know, that's really not the role of elections for members of the House of Representatives. That's the role of the members of the House of Representatives to begin discussions of within Congress. I had another point I wanted to you see, I'm feeling a lot better physically right now. I actually can talk. That's nice. It's not that I don't have pains. Oh my God. Yeah, this morning, every time I'm trying to organize the desk and put things together, I've had all sorts of little gadgets and odds and ends and things that I had when I had a vision. I was still trying. I was gonna send it a lot. So I literally the day I wound up in the hospital was the day I began really seriously trying to say I'm gonna do it. I have all the equipment to do a podcast. I originally was gonna use it to just talk to myself, and then take those, and then do something with them. But I had gotten some of their stuff in case I wanted to do it more as a podcast. You know, I used to be on a lot of the, you know, every week and whatever. But I don't know if it's even going on anymore. It's a different. It's amazing. It's a different culture, like from Occupy, which was, you know, a whole new generation of people, and then now it's completely different. But yeah, I don't know. And like I said, if you fighting about policy is irrational, you know, because ultimately it's all come down to you're trying to force more votes in your side. You're not trying to convince anybody. Everybody's already got their mind made up, you know. And you talk about policy that hasn't been, you know, made. I mean, it's supposed to come out of the representative process. It's supposed to come out of the voices of all coming together. That's why the process is more important. See, you know, if you think, oh my God, we won the presidency, 8 years, Obama, our policies. Well, let's say Obama enacted a lot of great policies. Let's assume that, for the sake of argument. Trump comes in and it's all gone. You're back to square one when you get Biden. Oh my God, when you get Biden. Holy shit. Who the hell fell for that? Oh my God. Biden. That's not about who Biden is, because Biden really isn't there. Biden is unimportant other than a sack of skin that you stick out, put on TV, put in public maybe once in a while. He reads cue cards written by somebody else. I mean, he literally reads cue cards written by somebody else. We've seen him do it in the most, you know, ridiculous context. Anybody who says Biden has any good quality about him, there's no good quality about him. You know, He may have a right idea or a good idea, but there's no good quality about him. He only pursues that right or good idea if it benefits him. And so that leads to the calculation if it benefits the Democratic Party, and if it benefits the Democratic Party's backers, who turn out to be the same backers as the Republican Party, and they've played both sides of the game. And they're guaranteed to win no matter what. Oh my God. I mean, go to Vegas. You go to a casino owner and you say, hey, shit, man, I got an idea. I got a game for you. 2 players, only 2. And, but you get to predict who wins. You can bet on who wins, right? 2 players. Well, shit. I'll put money out, influence both, and bet on both sides. And if my ideal of the 2 doesn't get in, well, the other guy, or gal, well, they're already, sucking off my teat for their political existence. And boy, do I love that. That's the people running the government. They're not in office. They're not even in the Democratic Party. They don't get involved in politics. Well, again, it's a game. It's a facade. It's a show. But they stay in the background and pull the strings. Really, pull the strings. Oh my God, conspiracy theory. Oh, conspiracy is just 2 people acting together to achieve a common goal. Oh my God, they conspired. But you don't even need a conspiracy for most of what's wrong with government. It's not about the choices that the people are making. It's about the structure within which they operate, socially and politically, and economically. Right? Those things shape what they do. They determine what those people say. They don't determine the particulars, but they determine what they're not going to say. Absolutely. So they've narrowed down the realm of possible things to talk about to a tiny few. And they've eliminated most of everything they want to oppose. So now it's just down to the game, I know the person that got me set off on this knows that that's what did it, and I don't mean for that person to mistake that as me I don't say criticism. It's more like condemning criticism. It's not that. It's not something I learned just recently. It's something I did when I had, for years, the independent movement at the University of Florida. There's no question about it. From the late 80s through the 90s, the mid 90s, I was the central figure in all that, opposition. I learned a lot in that process. I learned about young people wanting to get involved in politics and seeing them get involved in it and seeing them find out what it's really like. And seeing the ones that drop out and the ones that stay. Seeing the ones that stay uncomfortably and they want to fight. And what they have to go through, and seeing the ones that they join the game. Many senses, they always were. They weren't in the opposition because they opposed. They were in the opposition because they weren't getting a position in government. And that's what they wanted. So the minute that was opened up to them, they became the other side. I saw that so many times. You know, one thing I learned is you gotta learn for yourself. I mean, I can tell you what I think, and I will. I'll tell you what I think. You know, don't take it personally, I say. I'm not gonna make it personal. Oh, and I can do that. Clovis Watson is the scum of the earth. He's a crook and a criminal, and he's your sheriff. Good luck with that. God almighty. The man has a resume that he purchased with public city funds illegally. His education was given credit for a job he never had before, as if he had years of experience, because they got a paycheck from the city of Alachua bank account amounting to about $50,000 for each degree. I just listed a plethora of felonies that I put on the desk of Bill Cervone, the state attorney. Absolute proof. He got a degree that he claimed to be an MPA, Master's of Public Administration, because he wanted to become permanent city manager, and that was supposed to be a requirement. So he purchased that degree in about 3.5 months. But it wasn't a Master's in Public Administration. It was a Master's in Interdisciplinary Studies. And I put on, go on the web, go look at it. Look at the transcripts. It's a joke. This institution gave him credit for strategical analysis, because Clovis Watson didn't know strategical is not a word, and he didn't know strategic and statistics are two different words, and that he's supposed to take statistical analysis. And he wrote the curriculum, and they signed off on it. He also got credit for city's budget. C-I-T-Y-S, no apostrophe. Not C-I-T-I-E-S. And what institution has a course in city's budget? Budgeting, maybe. City's budget. City's land use plan. He handed them the work of the city, which has been going on for years before he even became city manager. Didn't even know what he was doing. And they gave him credit for it because he paid $50,000 of the city's money. And when I put it on the desk of Bill Cervone, that forget all the details of I can prove. I mean, Mountain State University, which had him as their poster boy, and I don't make that up. They literally had their website, front page, Clovis Watson, our alumnus, our most, this is our prized possession. The institution is out of fucking business because it was declared a fucking fraud. And he is fucking sheriff with that piece of shit paper on his wall. And people go, oh, Mr. Watson, so impressive. Why don't you teach at UF? Holy fucking shit, people. When I put it on the desk of Bill Cervone, I said, let's simplify it. It's a felony. Here's the statute to claim you have a degree you don't have. And every piece of paper the city of Alachua put out, Clovis Watson put unheard of any city manager ever doing anything like it. Put Clovis Watson, MPA. He had business cards made out with it. He had his stationery made up with it. He had the city's letterhead have it. He had the city's agendas for the city commission have it. That was all thousands of incidents of a felony commission of a crime. What did Bill Cervone do? He said, stop saying you have an MPA.
What did Clovis Watson do? He said, okay, I've got an MBA. Because in 3 weeks, after having Savone tell him that, he had paid a university that was going to give him a PhD, for God's sakes. A PhD in a fucking university town. Your fucking sheriff is a fucking fraud and has made a fucking joke out of every one of you academics at UF. Every one of you who sits silently and lets this fraud go on. Every one of those at Santa Fe that put him in a teaching classroom until I went and I said, I'm going to put it public to your students who you have in that classroom. And that they do not have a single credit that would qualify them to teach anything. This is your fucking sheriff. He was just your fucking state house of representative. And nobody picks up on he got an MBA in 3 weeks while he was a full-time city manager. Jesus, people. God. But seriously, man. It's right there in black and white. Strategical analysis. Oh yeah, of course, Clovis Watson not only got all these degrees, but he's magna cum laude and summa cum laude. When you pay for the class, they're not really teaching or testing anything, and when they do, he's having the city employees write it up for him. They complained to state officials about it. That was not me. That was the city of Alachua's employees. They brought it to public attention long before I came on the scene. Oh my God, people. You have an absolute fraud as sheriff, and you sit back and watch as his political party praises him as the second fucking coming. You know, I don't want to go down too deep in this path, but, you know, put a pen and paper in front of Clovis Watson and ask him to write up something. And then tell me you have no problem putting this man in a university classroom, teaching students who are paying good money for an education. Clovis taught a class. Sadie Darnell was the prop in one. And in fact, every class he had a prop. He didn't teach. What was he going to teach? He didn't know the subject. He's never had a single class in politics, public administration. I gotta go. Someone's at the door. On that note, I'll leave you.